What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another installment of the Coach Steve Show podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by the Belly Up Sports Network. If you go to bellyupsports.com, you can find this podcast, a bunch of other podcasts on there from every sport, fantasy sports, there's blogs, and then there's other stuff outside of sports that are on there, which is fantastic. It's a growing network. Bunch of stuff on there. Go check it out. Go check out the sponsors that are with the Belly Up Sports. If you're watching this on YouTube, the Coach Steve Show YouTube channel, please hit the subscribe button. Please hit the like button. Leave comments down below. Leave your thoughts. Leave how to improve. Share it out, please. And thank you. If you're listening to audio form, it can be listened to anywhere you listen to your podcast: Spotify, Apple, iHeart. It's on Spreaker now. It's on Pandora. Literally wherever you listen to a podcast, the podcast can be found there. So please leave a review, like it, subscribe to it, and all that good stuff. I thank you, everybody that listens. Again, please make sure to check out the live Sunday shows at 10 a.m. where I go live with Brad Miller and Coach West. We will be breaking down Illinois football. For better or worse, we will be breaking down Illinois football. We will also be talking about other things that go on in college football. And then I'm going to try to have weekly episodes where I talk about Big Ten football and how that conference is going, for who they play, how, wins and losses, how the teams are looking. Have another episode talking about other things in college football, and then try to have an NFL one where we talk about anything in the NFL or just the Chicago Bears. For better or worse, the Chicago Bears, yes, Illinois and Chicago Bears. And they also have weekly episode where I try to talk to a coach or anybody in around the country. Those will be released here, looking 3 to 5 episodes a week, which is a lot, but to try to grow the podcast and everything else. So again, please go check out bellyupsports.com. Check out all the other stuff. Please like and subscribe. And betting season's underway. You have plenty of games to bet on. You have NFL, you have college, you have baseball. College basketball will be starting soon. NBA is going to be starting soon. Go on to MyBookie and you use the code BellyUpFantasy. It's going to double your first deposit. So you give them $200. Now you've got $400. You give them $100. You've got $200. If you just want to put in 50, now you've got $100. If you would have made the bet on last night, like I put out there, if you took Carolina plus 7.5 and to win the game, and you used MyBookie and used the code BellyUpFantasy, and you double your first deposit. So if you gave 100, you got 200, and you just bet the 100, you would have made a lot of money. If you're going to use it to the college sports, use it for that. So go do that. It helps supports this show. It helps supports the Belly Up Podcast Network to grow and to be able to do more things, provide more shows. So please go do all that. Thank you so much. Today's episode, we're going to dive in. A little behind, like I said, when we try to go live or try to do these. Life could happen, but, we all have a life. We all have stuff going on. We got to deal with it. Going to dive into some NFL talk. Not going to get too crazy around the NFL. We're going to stick to the Chicago Bears. Now, before the season started, me, Coach West, and Brad Miller, we're all Bears fans. We decided we got to be a fan of another sport, so we decided, or another team, so we put it out there, and you, the people, decided that we were going to be Colts fans. Now, after watching the Browns, I think I'm not a Browns fan, so I got to be Bears, Colts, Browns. Yes, I know, whatever. But for right now, for the sake of purposes, until it gets this rolling, we're going to talk about the Chicago Bears. Now, the whole thing going in with Chicago has been their quarterback situation. Coming into the season, they drafted Justin Fields out of Ohio State. Right before that, they signed Andy Dalton. I've had my issues and everything with that. Coming into the season, I am predicting they are going to get under 8 wins, only because of how the offense looks. Who's calling the plays? If Matt Nagy is still there calling the plays, they are not going to make the playoffs. They're not going to win the 8 to 9 games, 10 games, whatever they need. We've already seen the type of play calling he's had the first 2 weeks. So this is going to be about Chicago Bears. Going to give my thoughts on Justin Fields. So we're going to go dive back a little bit into the past. Bears are currently sitting at 1-1. Week 1, they were Sunday night primetime. I have no idea why. They lose to the Rams 34-14. And people kind of quickly went to, well, if Justin Fields would have started, they would have won. We'll get to that in a second. Then they play the Bengals, and they only win 20-17. The Bengals they have Joe Burrow, who is a pretty good quarterback. He is tore his ACL, has come back, looks pretty good. But Cincinnati has a terrible offensive line. They probably have just as bad an offensive line as the Chicago Bears, if not worse. So the Bears are sitting at 1-1. They're going to travel to Cleveland this Sunday to play my new team that I'm a fan of, the Cleveland Browns, who I think are looking pretty damn good. I think Baker Mayfield has figured it out. I think the play calling over there has figured it out. And once they're healthy, watching them play against the Kansas City Chiefs is just, they were on fire. They were flying around the field. They were making tackles. They were moving the ball. So I think the Bears are going to have a real tough time with that. But looking at the Bears overall, they are not looking too good. The only time their defense has shown up has been against Cincinnati. People were quickly to blame Andy Dalton when they lost to the Rams. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, the Rams are poised to make a Super Bowl run. Having Matthew Stafford at quarterback, the weapons on offense, Sean McVay calling plays. That defense was, I believe, the number 1 in the NFL last year. And you still have I think they have pretty much the entire defense except for a couple pieces. They are coming back. So they're poised for a Super Bowl run. The Bears are poised for another first-round draft pick. Well, we traded them away, so we're not going to get them. We're poised to just barely get out of the NFC North. Now, I think right now we're sitting at the first spot, so it's whatever. But people were quickly to blame Andy Dalton. One of the things talked about with that game, if you look at the play calling that they did, Matt Nagy was calling plays with short routes because he knew that he's going to get a pass rush. The offensive line's not the best. The guy get rid of the ball in like 2 seconds. So he was only calling short routes for that situation. Now, Steve, you just complimented Matt Nagy. Yes, that stuff makes sense, but you got to take deep shots. Sean Payton always says you got to take 2 a quarter, so 8 a game. Take a deep shot, show them that you can do it. Not necessarily have to complete it, but if you're like, man, they just threw a 60-yard bomb, well, now the corners and safeties have to respect that. Andy Dalton gets rid of the ball fast. Andy Dalton can read a defense. He's not going to go out there and give you like a 400-yard passing game all the time. He's not going to go out there and give you a 300-yard passing game all the time. The Bears offense, I don't even know. We used to say they were just run, pass, or pass, run. They forced Mitch Trubisky to just be a pocket quarterback. Well, now, Matt Nagy, you have a pocket quarterback in Andy Dalton, who I think is not quite past his prime, but he's not in his prime anymore. He's not to the point where it's too much. He's way past his prime. He's at the point now where he's just going to be able to manage the game. He's going to be able to read the defense, and he gets rid of the ball quick. They were showing it was like 1.8 seconds, 2.1 seconds. And one thing they talked about in the preseason was Justin Fields does not get rid of the ball that quickly. So against a defense like that, Justin Fields is going to hold on to it. And I believe I said that when he was in college. He holds on the ball too long because he's a 1-read quarterback, maybe a 2-read quarterback, if that. And he's looking to take the deep shot, or he locks in onto a receiver. Now, in the NFL, maybe he got better at this. I don't know. But at Ohio State, he locked on to his main receiver. I can't remember his name because I don't care because it's Ohio State. And he would lock on. I've seen him overthrow a post by 10 yards. I've seen him lock onto a receiver. When he doesn't have receivers like the Bears, they really don't have like a guy that they're going to go to, like maybe Allen Robinson and all that, but whatever. They don't really have that right now. The only person they kind of have is David Montgomery, who has gotten a lot faster. Now, David Montgomery has been training to do like the speed-based training, which I know that's not what it's called. If you listen to my other shows, I talk about Alabama, that's what they do. David Montgomery did that in the offseason after he hurt his knee, and he's gotten a lot faster. I think he's gotten 2 miles an hour faster or something like that. He's training with a guy named Chris Corfus up here in Illinois in the suburbs and has gotten a lot faster. So one of the knocks on Justin Fields from that game was he'll hold on to the ball too long. And against a defense like that, you got to realize, and he did Ohio State, because in college, and you're at Ohio State, and you're playing Purdue, and I love my Illinois, but you're playing Illinois, you're playing Purdue, Indiana before they start to get okay. Like, you're playing teams like that, you can hold on to the ball a little longer. You're able to take off. You're able to break tackles. And so I think that was one of the knocks, was he holds on the ball too long. He would take big hits, or he's going to try to run out of it. We're not in the NFL. I'm not saying he can't outrun people. I'm not saying he can't make a move. I'm not saying this, but it's the NFL, where if somebody gets a hold on to you, you're going to go down. That's just what it is. But people wanted to blame Andy Dalton for that game. I blame the whole offense. I blame the play calling. Defense was getting up big plays. I think the Rams were just better. Again, we have a new defensive coordinator, so we're trying to figure out that defense as well. So a lot of things were going on, and you got the Rams, who all they did was replace the quarterback and Matthew Stafford. They're the same offense. They can do a little bit of other things with him, like deeper throws. And no offense, Jared Goff, I think Matthew Stafford can manage the game. So just these Bears fans need to stop blaming Andy Dalton for that loss, or say that Justin Fields would have came into that game and won you the game. I don't think so. I think if Aaron Donald got a hold of him, he's not going anywhere. They're just fast. They fly around. I don't think that's what would have happened. Then against Cincinnati, the Bears looked okay. Their defense showed up. I know they had like 3 interceptions in a row on Joe Burrow, and they still managed to almost lose the game. Andy Dalton was actually looking pretty good. He was throwing the ball where he needed to. He's doing the short passes, intermediate or medium passes. We don't really throw the ball deep, even with Justin Fields. Now then, Andy Dalton's looked good. He was actually running. He was running outside the pocket and getting a couple first downs. And he's an old man in the NFL world. But he was putting the ball where it needed to be. He was managing the game well. Matt Nagy is still not a great NFL play caller. Not saying I could do much better, but when you're watching the game and you're like, what game plan did you come up with? That's the thing with like armchair quarterbacks, or us on Sundays when we're sitting in the chair. We don't know what the game plan is. We did not watch film on Cincinnati from their first game. We don't do any of that. So we don't really know what his game plan was, but you do have to question sometimes, like, what are you doing? Like, Matt Nagy, I think, needs to go, or he hires an offensive coordinator and just becomes a CEO. Now, the defense did play better. They got those 3 interceptions, but then the Bears tried to lose the game. Now, Andy Dalton's looking pretty good. He's putting the ball where he needs to. Like I said, he's getting rid of the ball quick. He's being very accurate. And this is what you need out of Andy Dalton. But again, people want to blame, because Andy Dalton was 9 for 11. He only had 56 yards. He was averaging 5.1 yards a completion and had a touchdown. And he only took 1 sack. Had a QBR of 81.3, and then, whatever you want to look at that. I thought he was doing pretty good, and then he was running outside the pocket, and then when he ran, his knee buckled, and people need to know when your knee buckles like that, something's rubbing against each other. Some bone or some muscle is going to touch something that's not supposed to do that, and it's very uncomfortable. If you've ever hurt your knee, it is very uncomfortable. So he has to come out because it's bruised. So now Justin Fields comes in, and then the whole world exploded. Justin Fields. Yes, we have our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, playing quarterback. Again, people need to realize, I don't even think it was Mitch Trubisky's fault. I'm not saying that he's better than Justin Fields. I'm not saying Justin Fields is better than Mitch Trubisky. I think Justin Fields is more athletic. But people need to realize NFL coaches force these players sometimes, most of the time, to do what they want to do instead of the coach saying, well, he can do this. Why don't I call this? Does that make sense? Again, if Nick Saban can stand there in college and say, well, we don't really do this backpedal or the stance, if the player can't do it, if he can do something else, that's what we're going to do. I think even with Tom Brady can kind of throw the deep ball, but I think Bruce Arians was like, well, I got Tom Brady who can do really good short passes. He can throw the medium passes, and then those open up a longer play. Why don't I just do that? And they figured it out the second half of their season. They won the Super Bowl. In 2018, the Bears had the doink, but we won a lot of games. Mitch was getting outside the pocket. They were running him. They were doing zone reads, power reads. I'm a broken record. If you did all that with Justin Fields, got him outside the pocket, if you get him outside the pocket and then once in a while kept him in the pocket to throw, yeah, probably be pretty good. But he's a one-read quarterback again. You have like another Mitch Trubisky here, maybe just a little more upside. Now, before I get on this rant, I think Justin Fields is a good player. I think he's a good athlete. From what I've heard and seen, he is studying the game and trying the best that he can to the best of his ability and working very hard. And I respect that, and that's what you need. He had good numbers at Ohio State. I just think in the draft we could have gotten Lyman. I think Lyman was the bigger issue. I think Matt Nagy's a bigger issue than Mitch Trubisky. I think Matt Nagy's going to be more of a problem than Justin Fields. So I have to put that out there. My huge problems with Justin Fields as well, it's Ohio State fans, and they're the most sensitive fans in the world when it comes to football. And they're not, I'm just going to leave it at that. Matt Nagy's going to be the bigger issue with this than Justin Fields because of the play calling. And then Justin Fields made comments about, the game is actually pretty slow. And then he gets rocked. And he got rocked like a hurricane. Just bam, broken jaw. So I want to put that out there. And I think there's upside, which is why they probably drafted him. But the problem is, as soon as you draft a guy that has these big numbers from Ohio State, who, when he was at Ohio State, had a good offensive line, played teams like Purdue and Illinois and Indiana and all that. Now, he did win big games, but you're playing teams like that. You have two running backs that at any point in time can give you 150 yards of rushing, if not both, in the same game. So when you have this big rushing attack, it opens up the pass game. People don't realize that when they go back and look at Ohio State. I've seen him read stuff, just one-read quarterback. Now, can he get better at that? Absolutely. If you play call for him right, can he be very good? Absolutely. And I hope he is very good. And I hope some of the things I say, I am wrong. And if I'm wrong, I will hop back on here and say I am wrong 100%. Most of the people I get in this talk with or debate, if you want to call it, I agree with. We agree Matt Nagy's the problem. And I tell them that I hope that Justin Fields does pretty well, but I just don't see it right now. I think my biggest problem is they're saying he's going to do it now. Like he's going to win now. Like he's our Lord and Savior. He is Tim Tebow from Florida, our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ coming in to win the game. And I just don't see it yet. Now, as the season goes on, yes. I just don't think he's ready for it. He'll go out there and compete and try, and I respect it. I just don't see it happening with who's calling plays. If we had Doug Peterson, I think we'd be fine. But not with Matt Nagy. Even if he was a quarterback with Andy Reid, I think he would be very good and do very well. Just for right now, I don't see it, so I have to put that out there. But I think he'll be good, or I hope he's going to be good. I just think we should have gotten some linemen. They could have gotten whatever. So Justin Fields comes into the game, and he has a bruised knee. Here's the thing. Justin Fields was 6 of 13 for 60 yards. 4.6 yards of completion with an interception. He got sacked twice. His QBR was 4.5. And he fumbled the ball. Now, he got the ball back, but to me, he fumbled the ball. He had a couple good break out of the pockets, but Andy Dalton did it too. Not quite with the contact, I understand that, but he did it too. So I don't want to hear it like he had a great game. No, he came in and kind of did what he needed to do, which I respect as part of the game plan. Defense had 3 interceptions. But then we come out, Matt Nagy has him throwing the ball when we're up. Throw an interception, Bengals come back, they can score. Trying to come, like they could have came back and won this game. So I don't want to hear how Andy Dalton had like this great, I believe, second quarter and the second half. It wasn't this fantastic thing that was off the charts. So I think people need to stop. Like they want this to be so good. Now, this is no offense to some of the guys I get in talks with. I respect them. And we agree probably 95% of the time. And I think that if they listen to this, you know who you are. I respect you guys, consider you guys like in this coaching world, coaching friends and all that. And it's not you. I'm going after other people. You guys said like he had a decent game. You're not telling me he had a great game. So this is not to you, but there are people out there who are putting how he had this great game. There's other podcasts that are just on the Bears that say, oh, he had this fantastic game and everything else. No, he didn't. No, he didn't. Now, is part of that Matt Nagy's fault? Absolutely. So we're not going to blame Justin Fields. But he didn't I quit acting like he came in, went 15 of 20 passing with 200 and some yards and a half and 2 touchdowns. Like, that's not what happened. Now, and then, this isn't going to be a long episode. One thing I saw was, well, he did throw a dime. He threw that one in the end zone. It was right there. Should have been caught. I understand it. It happens to quarterbacks all the time. So what I saw was, well, if it wasn't for the drops, Justin Fields would have been better. Are you kidding me? If that's where we're going, then we go back and we look at Mitch Trubisky, where I believe in 2019, the Bears had 30 drops or something like that or more. If they would have called those, Mitch Trubisky would have been good. You can do that every Sunday. Well, if the receivers wouldn't have dropped the ball, if this wouldn't have happened, if this wouldn't have happened, I never want to hear that. You can't sit there and say, well, if the receivers catch the ball, they don't drop the ball. You can say that for every freaking quarterback. Now we're really digging deep into the cookie jar, hoping that there's a cookie in there before mom comes home and we can eat the last cookie. Before dad comes home, we're trying to get the cookie. But there's no cookie. There's crumbs. You're digging too deep. You're trying to find China through the earth where it's not. Like, you're trying to find something that's not there. Don't say that, oh, because the receivers dropped the ball, they would have been good. No, stop. Just stop. Just let him develop, and I will back off. You guys back off and quit saying how great he is. Now, is he a good athlete? Can he kind of throw the ball? Yes, but I don't know if he's that great. Now, he's going to start against the Browns, and I'm sorry to tell you right now, the Browns are pretty good. He's going into the dog pound. Now, they're saying that he's never lost a game in the state of Ohio or something or whatever. I don't know. If Matt Nagy comes in and changes the play call and adapts it to him, they have a chance to win that game. But outside of him, the rest of the offense is a little shaky. So it doesn't look good going into Cleveland. Cleveland has a good defense, a decent defense. They were holding Kansas City up until the end. Their offense is starting to figure out where, the play calling, when you give Baker Mayfield some confidence, the whole offense some confidence, they look pretty good. So you're looking at all that. So I don't know if they go into the dog pound and win. Justin Fields is going home, back to Ohio. That's not where he's from. But, he played at Ohio State for a while. That's where he's going. And I hope the Bears win. It's just going to be a tough one going in Cleveland. It's not like he's going to start against – if he would have started against the Bengals, maybe he would have had a better game. But quit saying he had this great game against Cincinnati. Quit saying if the receivers would have caught these passes that he would have, that's why his numbers are 6 for 13 or whatever. Well, I could say the same thing. If Andy Dalton's 9 for 11 and 2 guys drop the ball, I could sit there and say, well, if he was 11 for 11, if you go to Tom Brady, if he throws the ball 40 times but only has 24 completions, well, if those other, 16 would have caught the ball, he would have had these amazing numbers. You can say that for every quarterback. So quit digging into the cookie jar. Quit going deep into the earth trying to find China. Quit going to try to find, this pot of gold thing that you're trying to find. Quit digging for it and just watch the game and just kind of realize, yeah, that's kind of a weird, like not the right thing to say if he's going to be good or not. That's not where we need to be going. That's not what we need to be doing. So quit digging deep for that. But I do think Matt Nagy needs to go. I think this playing both quarterbacks back and forth needs to go. I hope Andy Dalton is healthy. I hope Justin Fields does play well. I hope he does get better. I can't say that enough. I think we all agree on that. So hopefully they will get better. But the Browns are very good. I'm loving the Browns, the way they play, how hard they hit, how hard they run the ball, their offense, how tough their defense is. Just very, very. I think they're gonna beat some people this year. And unfortunately, they're probably going to beat my Bears this weekend. But yeah. Okay, well, this is going to be a short episode. Some of these are going to be longer. Again, life happens. You have to do whatever. So what I want to do, and I put the Houston was going to win last night, Carolina was going to beat Houston and said, minus the points. So I'm going to go through and tell you, NFL is a lot easier to pick than college. So we're going to go through each game. I'm going to tell you who's going to win. And then there's some I'm going to have a couple bets where I'm going to tell you to take minus the point or plus the points as well. So we're going to go through. I said Carolina minus 7.5, and they did. Next game, Arizona playing Jacksonville. I think Jacksonville is a free-for-all. I think that there's turmoil in the coaching offices with Urban Meyer. I think Urban Meyer might leave after this, try to go take the USC job and go back to college. Right now they have Arizona, minus 7.5 versus Jacksonville. I think that I think Arizona wins, and I think they will be minus 7.5 for that game. That is my lock. So I have a lock. If you'll go to sneaky, then I'll just go through the rest. But the ones I'm telling you, like 100% to go bet on, my lock is Arizona minus 7.5 versus Jacksonville. My feel-good one is Green Bay plus 3.5 versus San Francisco. I think Green Bay is going to finally figure it out. If their defense can hold up, and Aaron Rodgers shows up and beats Aaron Rodgers, and and the media will just give Aaron Rodgers back and just let him do his thing, I think they win that game. My sneaky pick, because Dallas's offense looks pretty good. I think Dallas is minus 3.5 versus Philadelphia, even though I'm a Justin Hurts fan. That's my sneaky pick. Dallas minus 3.5 versus Philly. So if you want to win some money, hop on that one. Indianapolis plays the Tennessee Titans. Indianapolis has still a good defense, still some players on offense, but Carson Wentz has 2 ankle sprains at one time. So Indianapolis plays Tennessee. Tennessee is minus 5.5. I think Tennessee wins that game. I just don't know if it's going to be minus 5.5. I can see it being a 3-point game, but Tennessee's going to win this game. Baltimore plays Detroit. Detroit is playing a lot tougher, but it's still Detroit. Until they figure it out, it's going to be a little tough. I think they'll figure out later in the season. If Lamar Jackson comes back and he's feeling good, they're going to win that game right now. Baltimore is minus 8.5. I think you take Baltimore minus the points. Washington football team will play Buffalo. Buffalo is minus 7. Washington football team is playing a lot tougher. They have a lot of confidence, but it is Buffalo. They have the playmakers. They have Allen at quarterback, so I think that the Buffalo minus 7 is perfect. They're going to win by about 7. New Orleans will play New England. New Orleans did not look the same. They were out probably 6 to 8 coaches. That's a big deal, but it is New England. You do have Bill Belichick going up against a defensive guy versus offensive guy, and Sean Payton. I think that Winston, when New Orleans is not going to play well. I think Bill Belichick's going to have a good game plan for him. New England minus 3. I think you take New England, and you can also take New England minus the points. The LA Chargers will play Kansas City. Kansas City had a big lead on Baltimore and let it go. Kansas City's defense, a little shaky. So if you want to go for an upset pick, I think right now Kansas City is minus 7. I think you take the LA Chargers plus 7. I think the LA Chargers win this game. Then you got the Toilet Bowl, and I can't believe I'm saying that when it's not the Bears. The Atlanta Falcons versus the New York Giants. There's something wrong in Atlanta. They can't figure out how to win. The Giants definitely can't figure out how to win, even though they have Daniel Daniels at quarterback who can move and do things. Right now, New York Giants are -3. I don't think they get it done. I think Atlanta wins. So you can take Atlanta or take a -3 or +3. Chicago at Cleveland, we've already talked about. The Cincinnati Bengals travel to Pittsburgh. I think Cincinnati has an upside, but their offensive line is still shaky. Defense still a little shaky. If you allow the Bears to score 20 points, what's going to happen with Pittsburgh? Now, Pittsburgh on the flip side, depends how Big Ben plays, depends how their new offensive line plays. Right now, Pittsburgh is -3. I think you take that Pittsburgh or minus the points. Miami will play the Las Vegas Raiders. Miami without Tua at quarterback. And Vegas is feeling confident and hot. The Raiders are -4. I think you take the Raiders and minus the points. Denver versus the Jets. Easy. Denver wins. It's -10.5. Absolutely. The Jets are terrible. Big game. Tampa Bay versus the LA Rams. Tampa Bay is on a mission to win the Super Bowl. LA Rams are also on a mission to win the Super Bowl. So it comes down to Tampa Bay's offense, and it's going to come down to LA's defense. I think LA has a good enough defense to slow down Tampa Bay. I think the LA Rams with Matthew Stafford and Sean McVay calling plays have enough offense. Right now, LA Rams is +1. I don't know if you go with the point thing. I'm going to take LA Rams as an upset versus Tampa Bay. Seattle versus Minnesota. Minnesota always plays well, and then they let it go. I think Seattle just kind of let one slip out of their fingers. They're going to, after a good week of practice, they're going to figure out. Russell Wilson's not going to let that happen again. What happened before with the Tennessee Titans? Right now, Minnesota's +1.5. I think you take Seattle and -1.5. We've already talked about Green Bay and San Francisco, and we talked about the Philadelphia Eagles and Dallas. So there's my picks of who's going to win. If you're going to take plus the points, whoever, but I'm going to go by who's going to win. So there's my picks. If you go to MyBookie and use that code BellyUpFantasy and double deposit, and you want to use some of these, like I'm going to do the Arizona, Green Bay, Dallas. Let's go win some money, and we're going to keep track of this, and then I'm going to update it and say how I did, even in college. And there's our episode. So again, guys, thanks for listening so much. Please like and subscribe and share out. Please go leave it a review on the audio version. Check out the bellyupsports.com and check out everything there. Go check out past episodes. Join us live on Sundays at 10 a.m. Central Time with me, Brad Miller, and Coach West as we discuss Illinois and college sports. And once college basketball comes, we're going to start doing that. You're going to have weekly episodes. Please go check all that out. Please share it out. Thank you guys so much for listening. These will get better, I promise you, but I thank you for sticking with me. Go check out all the other sponsors in the description below, and we'll see you guys next time. This is Coach Steve. We are signing off from the Coach Steve Show podcast.